Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and we're back with another comparison video of who offers better investment value on the channel. We have two Huynh DPSs, so this is going to be a really interesting one because they are actually quite close competition in terms of the categories that they're playing in. One is of course a new character, first time she has been released, Topaz and Numby, and Seele of course has been around for quite a while. She first came out at 1.0, this is her first rerun too. Now we're going to talk about multiple aspects like current value and future value and free to play kits and stuff, so stay tuned to the end, I'm sure you'll find significant amounts of value. And we don't waste time on this channel, so I'm going to jump in with the first category here, current value. Why current value is very important is because if you are spending your resources, you want to know exactly what it gives you, your account right now. You don't want to just spend the resources that you could have just pulled another more better unit rather. So between both of them, I think if you were a fresh player, but a totally brand new player, Seele is a lot simpler to play because it's just plug and play. Unga bunga, buff her up, she does damage, follow-ups, attacks, ultimates. Very simple to get used to Honkai style if you are interested in starting the game. Whereas Topaz and Numby likely will be much more attractive to players who are more focused on maybe already existing players, you already played the game for a while, you're looking for a bit more versatility in terms of your team comms, building new rosters, slightly more complex to play because she also buffs follow-up attack and she has another unit in the element like Numby also takes her own turn. Slightly more complex out of the two of them, so that is my first opinion on current value. And as you can see, for the majority of this video, I'm going to be like super unbiased, I'm going to be stating facts, and towards the end of the video, if you're interested in my personal bias on my thoughts on which is better, I'll leave it all the way to the end. That is my commitment to you guys, as with every of these investment videos, I try to be as impartial as I can to just give better information. So that's the first part. Simplicity. That's of course an important thing, but not the only thing. We also need to talk about the current game state of where the game is going. Both of them are Huynh DPSs in nature, which means they are generally more single target rather than AoE damage focus. What this means is they are very exposed to meta changes. For now, of course, you have characters like Liu, you have Imbibed Lunar Blade who are flourishing because it's like a destruction AoE meta kinda, and Huynh characters are kinda pushed back, as we can see from like our community tier list as well. When I asked you guys to rank your opinions too, you guys rank Huynh characters slightly lower now. This is, both of them face the same thing, they're both subjected to meta changes. It is how it is in Honkai Star Rail, and especially with more AoE requirements. In my opinion, like Seele has fallen off quite significantly since 1.0 when she was first released, but still an excellent quantum single target DPS. There's no option available for her now in the single target quantum DPS category. Whereas on the other hand, I think Topaz has a little bit more flexibility and is able to be played as a support as well, which makes her a bit more resilient to the ever-changing meta that we have, be it like Huynh being in the meta or Huynh being out of meta. I think she's a bit more resilient for the fact that she can switch to a more supportive role, buffing follow-up attackers. Which brings me to my next point, which is of course going to be flexibility. In terms of flexibility's current value, Topaz definitely much more flexible. She has ability to buff another follow-up attacker, making her able to form a sub-DPS role. For example, Jingyuan taking the front seat in the main DPS role, you have a character like Topaz and Numby being a sub-DPS. We talk about team compositions and how you can build a team like that for more sub-DPS oriented Topaz and Numby. Check it out on the channel, best teams for Topaz and Numby if you're interested in her so far. But other than that, I think Seele is a bit trickier to run because she does like a lot of attention. You want to play her like hyper carry with Bronya or Tingyun, for example, giving her a lot more damage boosting ability to do large amounts of the damage. So, in terms of flexibility, I think Topaz and Numby is better for that situation. But then again, it's not as if she's super unflexible and can't be played outside of hyper carry teams. You can run her alone, but you will notice a significant drop in DPS, and especially if you run like a double DPS team with Seele. That is one thing that I want to point out. Other than that, synergies in the game that we have currently, because not only are we talking about the individual character, you want to know like who else are in the game and who do they work very well with. In my opinion, like in terms of synergies, Seele has a slight advantage. Why do I say that? You have characters like Silver Wolf who implants quantum weaknesses into the enemy, also is of the same typing, so you can run a mono quantum team. And you already have characters, for example, like Fucc in the game, who's also very meta, one of the best units rated by you guys as well currently. And you also have Nickss, a quantum healer, who's also rated one of the best 4-star characters by you guys too. This is a very, very strong unit. Expensive, no doubt, because it's 3 limited 5-star characters, but still very, very strong. I think that's some of the current values that it has. Very synergetic with the very other strong units in the game. if you compare that to Topaz and Numby, Topaz and Numby really has what's going for her is like Esther, who is the same typing harmony character, and other than that, she probably has characters like Jingyuan, Himiko, you have Clara, and to some extent March 7th and Herta as well to give like follow-up attacks for her. But other than that, not too much else going for her. And don't forget that Seele also has access currently to the Quantum set, which gives defense down and defense ignore to enemies with Quantum weakness. And in addition also, which combos very nicely to, for example, Silver Wolf in the game. Whereas currently in version 1.4, we don't have a specific follow-up set for Topaz and Numby, and the Fire set is kinda mid, but hopefully we will get one in future too. But that is aside, those things aside, I think last but not least for current value is novelty. If you're a player that likes the newest thing, you always like buying the freshest and most branded new iPhone and stuff, I think Topaz and Numby naturally will be more attractive to you. Seele is old, but in my opinion still gold. If you like Seele, I think she will also give good value. If you don't care too much about novelty, you don't mind just getting what's already tested and true. So that is my opinion of current value. And on that note, I think it's more or less a close fight between both of them. Maybe Topaz and Numby is slightly ahead in current value because I do see her more resistant to meta changes too. But in order to talk about current value completely in the current game state, we need to ask ourselves another question, which is really on alternatives. And this one is an important one because you don't want to buy something that you have something very similar to already, and you in the end are just going to bench them because you kind of can tackle content with something else. And the first thing, of course, that comes to mind that a lot of people will be saying, especially of a tried and tested character, would be Ting Xue at E6 especially, offers a lot of quantum damage, extremely strong in the meta now because of the nature of the buffs, the requirement for AoE damage. Ting Xue is super competitive to a character like Seele, especially if you're comparing E0 Seele to E6 Ting Xue. And that is one of the biggest things that a lot of people will be talking about. You see all the comments will be probably saying. But one thing to know is, of course, we are in a bit more AoE meta rather than a single target meta as of current 1.4. Very important to consider as well. Topaz and Numby, on the other hand, doesn't have actually too much competition. If we talk maybe specifically like very microscopic at just the fire element, we of course have characters like Himiko, you have characters like Gui Naifen, you have characters like Fucc, who is a single target fire damage dealer. On that note, it's like kind of similar to her because all of them contribute to fire damage. But I think what is not factored in is, more importantly, in terms of alternatives, there is no true follow-up attacker currently that we have in the game. In that case, she will fall very similar to the likes of Dan Heng, who is a Hun character but also a supportive Hun character because he has a slow inbuilt in his kit. Dan Heng has Welt, who also offers slow, but Topaz and Numby currently is the best in slot follow-up buffer in the game. There is no other character in the game that specifically boosts other teammates' follow-up attacks, which is very interesting, which makes her slightly ahead in terms of the alternatives category compared to Seele, who does have an alternative if you're just looking for a quantum damage dealer. But of course, single target damage dealer, she's still very, very strong, and that is very, very important to know as well. So with that being said, I think now we have talked about the present enough. The next thing that I want to talk about, of course, is like something to do with like stonks, because we want to see future value. How would they do in the future, and what are my thoughts on it as well? And in this category of future value, the most important thing I want to point out is we currently do not have a 5-star harmony character in the game, which means both of them, theoretically, if they get the lucky RNG and they get a fire harmony or a quantum harmony, they will likely outperform in a little bit because, as you know, harmony characters are super strong. All 4 of them currently in the game are super meta, and Bronya as a 5-star standard 5-star harmony character is already super damn strong. And I think that is something that can shift the balances. One more thing to shift maybe in Seele's favor slightly is that there are no quantum harmony characters in the game currently, whereas Fire we have S-star. If you talk about probability, the most likely scenario will be to introduce a quantum 5-star or quantum 4-star first before they even consider introducing a 4-star Fire or limited or a 4-star or 5-star Fire harmony character, of course before quantum. And that is like it's still speculative, but it does shift slightly favor in stonks for Seele as well. And of course, on the other side of the equation, you have the DPS category. She doesn't really work well with another DPS, but she does. So if you have a character that is a very strong, specifically like follow-up, only follow-up DPS character that she can buff and work well with, I think that is like shifts it a little bit more into Topaz and Numby's direction as well. So that is slightly favoring her if you have a new follow-up 5-star limited DPS for her to play with. And other than that, also I think both of them benefit from new relic sets that focus on single target damage. So far we haven't seen any that if you attack a single target more than once, you get additional buffs, or even maybe you have a follow-up attack buffing set. I think that will shift in the favor of Topaz and Numby, so there is some chance to have like stonks to boost her value as well. And of course, at this point, more characters in the game. I think when you slowly progress, you notice that as Blade was introduced, Imbibitor Lune was introduced, Jingliu was introduced, characters like Seele started falling off, and especially with meta changes, because there's just a lot more competition than there was before. And likely, this will be the case moving forward too, because theoretically, every single new character, new DPS that you add into the game would always make the existing pool weaker and weaker, because they become more situational. Like, why would you want to run Seele if you could run like another spanking new DPS character like Jingliu? And stuff like that as well. So that is something to know. In that case, it definitely favors a character who has a bit more flexibility that can play to multiple roles. In this case, Topaz and Numby too. This definitely favors her. So in terms of future value, if I were to honestly put it, I would say it slightly favors Topaz and Numby for longevity, and as well as I can see potential for her to have upside. The real key question is, are you banking on a 5-star Quantum Harmony character? If you are, then I think that would shift significantly in Seele's favor, at least for the short to medium term. And this category of potential is also similar to future value, but future value is more of like concepts that are more or less going to happen, more or less concrete and higher likelihood. Potential really is a much more broader, fluffier topic. If we are just exploring things that could shift the favor, it might not happen and it's a much lower probability, and that's why I put it in this potential category. The first thing, of course, that I want to talk about is the game state now. Elation, or the one that we see in, for example, the simulated universe, the Elation path, as well as follow-up attackers, are arguably right now at its weakest. We don't have a set that buffs follow-up. Our follow-up attackers like Himiko, Herta, Jingyuan, with the exception of maybe Clara, they are not very popular and not ranked like the top DPS in the game. So if you are starting from a very low base, talking about potential, the only way theoretically is up or staying exactly the same. If they want to sell more, they want to make more money, and they're trying to expand broader, likely they will put some emphasis on Elation as well as your follow-up attackers. So I do see this as a significant upside of potential for Topaz and Numby as a character design also. But more so than that, I think what's also very important is to talk about Hoyover's nature of who they tend to favor over the long periods of time. I have played Genshin for quite a while already, and I've seen certain changes in Honkai Star Rail that is very reminiscent of what it was like in the earlier days of Genshin Impact, which is another Hoyover's game. And what I noticed about Hoyover's is they tend to favor, have a favorite Chow in the game, and they usually want to favor that character a little bit more than other characters. Stuff like that is quite easy to observe. You can have characters that have crossed over from Honkai Impact 3, generally are slightly more favorite Chow-ish compared to other characters that are very new IP, the first debut kind of thing. So Bronya, Seele are such examples of crossovers. Characters in future, for example, you have like Raiden Mei, Raiden Shogun and stuff like that, likely will be also a little bit more favored too. We could see some a little bit more potential upside for Seele in future, being like a bit more of like a favorite Chow favoritism kind of thing. That is, of course, just a very, very brief thing. And another thing that points in that direction, of course, is during the story quest, IPC story quest, they're very quick to introduce other IPC characters like Diamond and other stuff when they were talking about Panaconi and stuff like that. So that means that Topaz and Numby's story relevance might diminish slowly, especially if other IPC characters come and take the limelight, which means that she theoretically would be out of the viewer's eye. And if you are out from the viewer's eye, you can tell that maybe there won't be marketing in the future and there won't be support for this character on the back end too. But as you can tell, this is in potential category because it's all very speculative and it's all nothing concrete as well in terms of game state. Last but not least in this category, I have to talk about it, but I think PvP in future, a lot of people are talking about it now with the new Ethereum Wars that just came out. That it seems like maybe there might be PvP, who knows? A character that is very fast, the fastest moving character, ability to one-shot, likely will be favored if ever one day there is such a thing. I'm not saying it will, I'm just pointing it out in the potential category. So last but not least here, I know it's a long video and I hope you guys appreciate the content so far. Like and subscribe because I do this for every single 5-star limited character that's out. If you appreciate it so far, you want to see Jingliu and Topaz and Numby, do check it out on the channel. We have tons of other of these videos too. Every patch we do it. Very, very useful in my opinion. And let me know in the comments if you guys appreciate it. So last but not least, let's talk about the free-to-play kit comparison. Not all of us have like tons of money to go for like E6, both of them, signature light cone. So who works best at E0 and S0? I think both of them have very nice access to good hunt light cones. Very, very solid because you have cruising in the Stellar Sea, you have good 4-star gacha options, for example like sword play, which is also very strong. The more you attack the same target, you get more buffs. In terms of damage, both of them can use it well, but I think that Seele slightly outperforms in the light cone category compared to a character that needs a bit more specific, like follow-up attacking kind of thing. And Topaz and Numby might not benefit as much as Seele, but in my opinion, I think it comes pretty close. So both of them are pretty decent with a free-to-play option as well. So that is one thing to consider. Next up, of course, relic sets, as we mentioned. Quantum is super strong. Quantum set has defense ignore, very synergetic and very nice for DPS, whereas the fire set kind is very, very mid right now. The 4-piece fire set. 2-piece is okay, but 4-piece is super mid. And once we have like a follow-up attack set, I think it'll be really nice to see. Then it might push this to be a more neutral category, but the quantum set really is super strong. It's so good that even the people were slapping it on, for example, DPSs like Jingliu, which is crazy. This shows how strong that set is, especially when you combo with Silver Wolf to force the quantum weakness and the defense break on the enemy too. Super, super good. And of course, last but not least, a free support is Esta when you first start the game. Seele really does okay with Esta as well, but in terms of synergy, I think Esta works a little bit better with Topaz and Numby for the same typing of element, which gives her access to Planetary Rendezvous, the light cone for Harmony characters that buffs same type damage. If you play long enough, 300 pulls, you can get Bronya, and out of the two of them, I think Seele pops off better with Bronya compared to Topaz and Bronya, and that is something that's worth considering for a free-to-play kit. You have to play long enough to get 300 standard pulls. I think it's like 7-8 months for free-to-play players. It is possible, but it's probably in a slightly longer term horizon as well. And if you appreciate such contents, do like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for more such future content. Really appreciate your attention, and check out these 2 other videos that I think you will be very interested in as well if you found this helpful. Cheers, and see you in the next video.